Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of the series of podcasts dedicated to medieval Asia. We've been exploring the complex relationships and conflicts that shaped this era. And today, we'll delve into a clash of empires that truly exemplifies this dynamic, the Goryeo-Khitan Wars.
These wars, spanning the 10th and 11th centuries, pitted the Goryeo Dynasty of Korea against the powerful Khitan-led Liao Dynasty of China.
Okay.
To understand the significance of these conflicts, we need to first grasp the historical context.
Let's set the stage for our listeners then.
Sure.
We've discussed the later Three Kingdoms period in Korea before.
Yes.
Remind us how that connects to the Goryeo Dynasty.
Certainly, the Goryeo Dynasty emerged from the ashes of the Silla Dynasty, which had ruled the Korean peninsula for centuries.
Right.
Silla's power waned, leading to a period of fragmentation known as the later Three Kingdoms.
Yes.
Goryeo ultimately unified the peninsula, inheriting the legacy and ambitions of the Goryeo kingdom.
And this claim to Goryeo legacy would become a major point of contention with the Liao dynasty, correct?
Absolutely. The Liao, having conquered Balhae in 926, viewed themselves as the rightful successors to Goryeo territory.
Okay.
This inherent tension is fascinatingly illustrated by an incident in 942 involving a rather unusual diplomatic gift.
Ah, yes, the story of the Camels.
Yes.
It sounds almost comical.
Right.
But I have a feeling there's a deeper meaning here.
Indeed.
Yeah.
The Liao, perhaps as a gesture of goodwill, gifted Goryeo 50 camels.
Okay.
What's intriguing is Goryeo's reaction.
Yeah.
They essentially rejected the gift.
Wow.
Banishing the envoy to an island.
Oh my goodness.
And leaving the camels to starve?
That's a powerful statement.
Yes.
What can we infer about Goryeo's perception of themselves and their relationship with the Liao from this act?
Goryeo clearly saw themselves as an equal, not as subordinate to the Liao.
Okay.
They were determined to assert their independence and legitimacy. This act, while seemingly bizarre, reveals a deep-seated resistance to Liao influence.
Okay.
And a determination to protect their perceived heritage.
This assertive stance, as you might imagine, eventually led to open conflict.
Yes.
The first clash came in 993.
Okay.
With the First Goryeo-Khitan War.
The Liao, fueled by their growing ambitions, launched a massive invasion.
Right.
Their force was colossal.
Okay.
Allegedly 800,000 strong.
Wow.
Aiming to overwhelm Goryeo's defenses.
That number is staggering.
Yes.
Did the Liao achieve their objective?
Despite their overwhelming numbers, the outcome of the First War was surprising.
Okay.
The Goryeo forces, though outnumbered, effectively resisted the invasion.
So they were successful.
The war ultimately ended in a stalemate, leading to negotiations.
What were the results of these negotiations? Was Goryeo forced to make significant concessions?
Goryeo did agree to end relations with the Song dynasty of China, a significant concession. As the Song were rivals of the Liao. However, they also secured advantages. They gained formal control over territory up to the Yalu River, solidifying their control over the northern peninsula.
So it's a mixed bag.
Yes.
With both sides gaining and losing something.
Yes.
Okay.
And there was another crucial element to the agreement.
Okay.
Goryeo also agreed to pay tribute to the Liao, which implied a level of subordination.
Right.
This complex agreement set the stage for the next chapter in the conflict.
The Second Goryeo-Khitan War.
Yes.
Which erupted just over a decade later.
Right.
What triggered this second conflict?
The seeds of this war were sown in 1009 with a dramatic coup led by General Kang-chan, a powerful figure in the Goryeo court. He assassinated King Kam-chan and installed himself as ruler.
Wow.
Plunging the kingdom into chaos.
This internal upheaval certainly seems like an opportunity for the Liao to exploit.
Precisely, the Liao used the pretext of avenging the murdered King Kam-chan to launch another invasion in 1010.
Right.
They assembled a massive army, around 400,000 troops.
Wow.
Showcasing their military might.
Did General Kang-chan's coup ultimately play into the Liao's hands?
In a sense, it did.
Okay.
The Liao, capitalizing on the internal turmoil, were able to inflict significant damage.
Right.
They sacked and burned the Goryeo capital, forcing the new King Haiyangzhang to flee south.
Okay.
However, the Goryeo people fiercely resisted, making it difficult for the Liao to gain a firm foothold.
So despite their initial success, the Liao faced challenges in holding their gains.
Yes, they faced persistent resistance and the prospect of a prolonged conflict.
Yeah.
This, coupled with the logistical difficulties of maintaining such a large force far from home, led to a strategic withdrawal.
It sounds like the Liao learned a valuable lesson.
Yes.
Conquering Goryeo would not be a swift or easy task.
Oh, indeed. Though they withdrew, the Liao made their dominance clear in their demands for peace.
Okay.
They insisted King Haiyang personally submit to their court.
Oh, wow.
And cede key border areas.
Humiliating demands, to say the least.
Yes.
How did Goryeo respond?
The Goryeo court flatly rejected these demands, setting the stage for a decade of simmering tension.
Right.
Both sides fortified their borders, built up their armies, and prepared for the inevitable Third War.
Right.
This conflict would prove to be the most decisive and consequential of all.
Before we delve into the Third Goryeo-Khitan War, let's pause here for a moment.
Okay.
You've painted a vivid picture of the escalating tensions between these two powerful dynasties. What I find particularly fascinating is how a seemingly trivial event, the gifting of camels, can reveal so much about the underlying power dynamics and cultural differences at play.
It is quite telling, isn't it? This seemingly minor incident foreshadowed the larger conflict that would unfold.
Right.
It highlights Goryeo's determination to assert their identity and autonomy.
Yeah.
A theme that runs throughout the Goryeo-Khitan Wars.
It's a reminder that history is often shaped by a complex interplay of factors, both large and small.
Yes.
And sometimes the smallest details can offer the most profound insights.
Indeed.
But for now, let's move on to the Third Goryeo-Khitan War.
Okay.
And explore how this clash of empires ultimately concluded.
All right. The Third Goryeo-Khitan War, launched in 1018, was the culmination of 2 decades of escalating tensions.
Right.
The Liao, determined to subjugate Goryeo once and for all, assembled an army of around 100,000 troops.
Once again, they sought to overwhelm Goryeo with sheer force. But this time, Goryeo was ready.
Right.
And they had a secret weapon. General Kam-chan.
Kam-chan was a brilliant strategist who anticipated the Liao's invasion route and devised a cunning plan. He ordered the construction of a massive dam across the Changshan River, creating an artificial lake behind it.
This sounds like a bold and ingenious strategy.
Yes.
How did it play out?
As the Liao forces confidently marched towards the Goryeo capital, they had no idea about the trap that lay ahead.
Okay.
They crossed what appeared to be a shallow riverbed below the dam,
setting the stage for a devastating moment.
Indeed. At the opportune moment, Kam-chan gave the order to release the dam's floodgates.
Wow.
A torrent of water crashed down upon the unsuspecting Liao army.
Oh my goodness.
Sweeping away thousands of soldiers and horses.
A catastrophic blow to the Liao forces.
Yes.
Did this completely halt their advance?
The flood created chaos and confusion.
Okay.
Disrupting their supply lines and severely damaging their morale.
Right.
It was a major turning point in the war.
Okay.
However, the Liao, though demoralized and depleted, regrouped and continued their march toward the Goryeo capital.
I imagine they were met with fierce resistance.
They were Kam-chan, capitalizing on his success, employed guerrilla tactics, launching hit-and-run attacks, further weakening the already exhausted Liao army. Their advance was slow and arduous. And as they approached the capital, they faced another obstacle. The Goryeo army, strategically positioned at Guiju, ready for a decisive battle.
This battle, the Battle of Gwiju, is often cited as a turning point in Korean history.
Yes.
Why was it so significant?
The Battle of Gwiju marked the culmination of the Third Goryeo-Khitan War. It was a clash of 2 determined armies with the fate of Goryeo hanging in the balance. The Liao forces, exhausted and demoralized, arrived at Guiju hoping for a decisive victory.
But they were walking into yet another carefully planned trap.
Kam-chan had chosen the battlefield strategically, concealing his main force in the surrounding hills.
Wow.
As the Liao army entered the valley. The Goryeo forces sprung their attack. Archers rained arrows down on the Liao troops.
Oh my goodness.
Followed by a cavalry charge that shattered their lines.
It sounds like a complete rout.
It was.
What were the casualties like?
The Liao army was utterly defeated.
Wow.
Only a few thousand soldiers escaped the carnage.
Oh, wow.
It was a resounding victory for Goryeo, securing their independence and shattering the Liao's ambitions of conquest.
What were the long-term implications of this decisive victory for Goryeo?
The victory at Guiju had profound consequences.
Okay.
It solidified Goryeo's position as a major power in the region, a force to be reckoned with. It forced the Liao to acknowledge Goryeo's strength and reconsider their expansionist policies.
The end of the Third Goryeo-Khitan War marked a turning point in the relationship between these two dynasties.
Yes.
However, the war didn't completely resolve all the issues between them, did it?
That's right. Tensions lingered,
Okay.
requiring careful diplomacy and negotiation to forge a lasting peace. The aftermath of the war was a period of delicate diplomacy, as both sides sought to establish a new balance of power. Goryeo, though victorious, understood the need for a lasting peace, while the Liao had to reevaluate their stance after a humiliating defeat.
It seems both sides were ready to move towards a more peaceful coexistence.
Indeed, negotiations led to a peace treaty signed in 1022, officially ending the Goryeo-Khitan Wars. This treaty established a new framework for relations between the two dynasties.
What were the key terms of this treaty? Did Goryeo have to make significant concessions to secure peace?
The Liao formally recognized the legitimacy of King Haiyanzhong's reign, a significant concession given their previous demands for his submission. It signaled a shift in their attitude towards Goryeo.
And what about the issue of tribute, which had been a major point of contention?
The treaty stipulated that Goryeo would continue to pay tribute to the Liao dynasty, but it was largely symbolic. It was more of a diplomatic gesture than a sign of subjugation, a way for Goryeo to acknowledge the Liao's influence without compromising their independence.
So it was a pragmatic solution that allowed both sides to save face.
Precisely. In return, the Liao agreed to respect Goryeo's sovereignty and territorial integrity. They pledged not to launch further invasions and to refrain from interfering in Goryeo's internal affairs.
The treaty seems to have ushered in a period of relative peace and stability between the two nations.
It did. This period of peace allowed Goryeo to rebuild and consolidate its power and focus on its cultural development. In fact, the Goryeo period is renowned for its artistic achievements. Especially in ceramics. Goryeo-Celadon, with its exquisite jade green glaze, is considered one of the finest examples of ceramic art in the world.
It's fascinating how a period of intense conflict can give way to such artistic flourishing.
Conflict often forces societies to innovate and adapt. In Goryeo's case, the peace that followed the wars allowed them to channel their energy into cultural pursuits. This cultural legacy. Particularly the exquisite Goryeo-Celadon is still celebrated and admired today.
These wars, while devastating, ultimately shaped Goryeo's identity and left an enduring legacy.
Absolutely. They forced Goryeo to develop its military capabilities, strengthen its defenses, assert its independence, and ultimately cultivate its unique cultural identity.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from the initial tension sparked by a gift of camels to the decisive victory at Guiju and the eventual peace treaty.
We have.
What are some key takeaways our listeners should remember about the Goryeo-Khitan Wars?
These wars, while often overlooked, were pivotal in shaping the political landscape of East Asia. They highlight the complex dynamics of power, the ebb and flow of conflict and diplomacy, and the resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity.
They also remind us that history is rarely black and white.
It is not.
The Goryeo-Khitan Wars were not simply a clash of good versus evil. Both sides had their own motivations, ambitions, and internal complexities.
Exactly. It's important to avoid simplistic narratives and appreciate the nuances of history. These wars offer valuable lessons about the importance of diplomacy, the enduring human desire for peace and stability, and the ways in which conflict can ultimately lead to cultural growth and innovation.
Before we wrap up, there's one more aspect I'd like to touch upon. The Goryeo-Khitan Wars, while primarily focused on conflict, also occurred within a broader context of economic and cultural exchange.
That's an important point. Trade routes connected different societies, facilitating the flow of goods, ideas, and technologies. Cultural influences flowed in multiple directions, enriching and transforming the societies they touched.
The Goryeo Dynasty, for example, adopted aspects of Chinese culture, including Confucianism, Buddhism, and the Chinese writing system. Yet they also retained their distinct cultural identity.
and the Liao Dynasty, despite their nomadic origins, were also influenced by Chinese culture, adopting aspects of Chinese political and social organization.
These exchanges, sometimes overshadowed by conflict, played a vital role in shaping the history of medieval Asia.
They did.
They fostered connections and created a shared cultural heritage.
Indeed, the Goryeo-Khitan Wars remind us that even in times of war, human societies continue to interact, exchange ideas, and influence one another, contributing to the rich tapestry of history.
It seems we've reached the end of our deep dive into the Goryeo-Khitan Wars.
Indeed. We've explored the key events, the motivations of the players involved, and the lasting impact of these conflicts on both Goryeo and the Liao Dynasty.
I hope our listeners have gained a deeper understanding of this often overlooked chapter of medieval Asian history.
I hope so, too.
These wars really demonstrate that studying history isn't just about, memorizing dates and battles. It's about understanding the complex interplay of factors that shape the destinies of nations and people.
Exactly. The Goryeo-Khitan Wars offer a glimpse into a world of shifting alliances, ambitious rulers, resilient people, and the enduring power of culture.
And while these particular wars might not be as well known as some other conflicts in medieval Asia, they hold valuable lessons for us today.
Indeed. They highlight the importance of diplomacy in resolving conflict, the destructive consequences of unchecked ambition, and the potential for reconciliation even after years of hostility.
We focused on the Goryeo perspective for much of this deep dive.
Yes.
But I'm curious, how did these wars affect the Liao Dynasty in the long run?
That's a great question. While the Liao Dynasty may have initially viewed Goryeo as a relatively minor obstacle in their pursuit of regional dominance, these wars forced them to reevaluate that perception.
They clearly underestimated Goryeo's determination and military capabilities.
Yes. The Liao learned that conquering and controlling Goryeo was far more challenging than they anticipated. These repeated conflicts drained their resources, tested their military strategies, and ultimately forced them to adopt a more diplomatic approach.
It seems these wars, despite the Liao's initial ambitions, ultimately contributed to a more balanced and stable relationship between the two powers.
Precisely. The peace treaty of 1022, while perhaps not ideal for either side, represented a pragmatic compromise that allowed both Goryeo and the Liao to focus on other challenges and opportunities.
These wars, though fought centuries ago, offer valuable insights for anyone interested in the dynamics of power, conflict, and diplomacy.
They remind us that understanding history, even the lesser-known chapters, can provide us with perspectives and insights relevant to the challenges we face today.
I think that's a great note to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Goryeo-Khitan Wars.
It's been my pleasure.
We encourage you to leave your comments and questions below, and be sure to subscribe and follow us for more deep dives into fascinating historical periods. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.